Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Albert. During my 7th wedding anniversary dinner at my wife's family home, I stepped outside to take a phone call. While I was outside, I glanced back through the door. That's when I saw something that made me rethink how I trusted my wife over the years. What I witnessed led me down a path I wasn't ready for, a path that uncovered a betrayal that had been happening behind my back for years. When I met my wife, Gloria, I genuinely thought I had found the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. We met through a mutual friend at a small get-together, and our relationship took off from there. We dated for 3 solid years. We shared our dreams, our fears, talked about family, finances, kids, and the future. We made decisions together. I truly felt like we were a team. After 3 years of dating, I decided it was time to propose. I planned a surprise because I wanted that moment to be special for her. Deep down, I already knew what her answer would be. I wasn't nervous about the outcome, just excited. And when I asked her, she said yes, smiling like she'd been waiting for that moment as much as I had. That memory stayed with me for a long time. Up until that point, there was nothing in her behavior, in her words, or in the way she treated me that gave me a single reason to doubt her. Looking back now, I realize how much I trusted her fully, without question. I never second-guessed her intentions or her love for me. I believed in her because she gave me no reason not to. That early stage of our relationship laid what I thought was an unshakable foundation. And that belief was what made everything that came after so hard to accept. The early years of our marriage were honestly some of the best times of my life. It felt like we were teenagers again, only this time we had our own place, our own schedules, and our own world to build together. Waking up beside her every morning was beautiful. Our love didn't feel rushed or forced, it felt natural. We talked about buying a house, raising kids, and traveling the world if we could. We were aligned. When you're in a relationship like that, you start to believe nothing could ever come between you. You put all your faith into it, not just because you have to, but because everything up to that point tells you that you're safe, that you've chosen well, that this person has your back. We were everything I thought love was supposed to be. After 4 years of marriage, I started to notice that the passion we had at the beginning wasn't as strong anymore. We weren't flirting like we used to, and the late-night conversations we once had slowly faded into short talks about bills. But I didn't panic. I honestly thought it was just a normal part of being married. Life happens. Work gets demanding. People get tired. And I believe that if your relationship has a solid foundation, you ride through the calm seasons the same way you do the exciting ones. So I told myself it was fine. But things changed in our 5th year, and everything started to feel heavier between us. Gloria and I had been trying to have children for a while, and we had already gone through the heartbreak of not just 1, but 2 miscarriages. Watching her go through that pain broke me, but I also felt helpless. She was hurting both physically and emotionally, and I didn't know how to fix it. We began seeing a fertility specialist. The clinic gave us a plan, strict routines, medications, diets, even scheduled intimacy. It was overwhelming. I noticed how drained Gloria looked, how tired her body seemed, how quiet she became. So I suggested we take a break, not from trying forever, but just to let her rest. I thought it would show her that I cared more about her than a schedule or medical chart. But she didn't take it that way. She said I was giving up. She told me I didn't understand what it meant to want to be a mother. She said if it were me who had to carry the child, I wouldn't be so quick to hit pause. I tried to explain that I wanted kids too, badly, but not at the cost of her health, not while she was barely functioning. But no matter how I put it, she saw me as selfish. The arguments that followed didn't explode, they just dragged on. Eventually, she packed a bag and went to stay with her parents. That month without her felt longer than any month I'd lived through. I didn't know if she would come back. I didn't know if I should call or give her space. But I hoped that her family would help calm things down. And in the end, that's what happened. Her parents encouraged her to talk to me again, and little by little, we found our way back to a neutral place. She came home. But the truth is, things weren't the same after that. Even though Gloria was back in the house, emotionally, it was like she had only returned halfway. We no longer shared the same closeness we once did. She started spending more time on her phone. She would hide her screen when I walked by or step away to answer a message. I asked her about it one night, casually at first. She said it was work, something about a project she was helping with. I wanted to believe her, so I left it alone. I tried to focus on my own life. I buried myself in work. Worked on a side project. I figured that maybe if I just gave her space and focused on bettering myself, things would balance out again. I thought the tension would pass on its own. But the emotional distance between us kept growing. We were still living together, still sleeping under the same roof. But it didn't feel like a marriage anymore. And deep down, I was afraid to admit how much of her I was already losing. By the time our 7th anniversary rolled around, things between Gloria and me weren't what they used to be. We used to plan our anniversaries with real excitement. They were our way of reconnecting, remembering why we chose each other in the first place. So when Gloria told me she wanted to do something different for our 7th anniversary, I was a bit surprised. She wants us to have dinner at her parents' house. It wasn't like her to give up our private tradition so easily. I remember asking, "Are you sure you don't want it to just be the two of us this year?" And she smiled and said, "No, I think it would be nice if my family celebrated our love with us this time." That line stuck with me. Celebrate our love. It sounded sweet, thoughtful even, but also slightly off. Still, I didn't push. We were trying to get back to something steady again, and if this was her way of opening the door, I was willing to walk through it. The truth is, in the days leading up to the dinner, she stopped being distant like she had been in recent months. She was doing things she hadn't done in a while. It gave me a bit of hope. I told myself she was trying to make things right. So I agreed to the plan. I tucked away any doubts I had and leaned into the idea that this could be a turning point. Maybe that night would bring us back to each other. I had no idea it would end up showing me just how far apart we really were. The night of our anniversary dinner was supposed to be a celebration, a reminder of how far we'd come, 7 years together. Her parents welcomed us warmly. Her younger sister was there, and so was her cousin. The table was beautifully set, the food was honestly amazing, and the wine just kept coming. Everyone was laughing, sharing old stories, and clinking glasses. On the surface, it looked like the perfect evening. And Gloria played her part well. Anyone watching us would have thought we were the happiest couple in the room. But I couldn't ignore how different she acted at home. The warmth she was showing me tonight, I hadn't seen that version of her in months. Still, I tried to go with the flow. As the dinner went on, I noticed she kept getting up. First, it was to check the oven, which made sense. Then it was to grab something upstairs. Then something else from the kitchen. She always had a reason, and every single time, she took her phone with her. Not once did she leave it on the table. I watched her more closely each time she left. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to ruin the night over what might just be me overthinking things. Then came the moment that flipped everything upside down. I got a call from a friend of mine. We're working together on a small side project, and I figured it was nothing serious. Probably just a quick check-in. I stepped out onto the patio to take it. The air was cool, and I remember thinking to myself how nice the evening felt. The blinds on the dining room window were open just enough for me to see inside. I could make out the kitchen entrance, and through the glass door, I saw Gloria walk into the kitchen. A few seconds later, her cousin followed her in. That's when something in me sat up. I don't know why I didn't look away. I was still on the phone, half listening to my friend talk, but my eyes were locked on that kitchen. They were talking, nothing obviously suspicious at first. But then they moved closer, and before I could even process what I was seeing, they kissed. It was slow and intimate. I froze. My heart literally stopped for a second. I didn't hear a single word my friend was saying after that. I just stood there, stunned. Every logical part of my brain was scrambling to explain it away. But I saw everything clearly. And just as fast as it started, they pulled apart, probably because they heard Gloria's mother's footsteps approaching. I stayed outside for a few more seconds after the call ended, trying to steady myself. I composed myself. I forced my face into something neutral and walked back in like nothing had happened. Inside, Gloria was sitting back at the table, laughing with her sister like everything was normal. Her cousin was talking to her dad, glass in hand, as calm as ever. They were both acting like nothing had happened. Their complete lack of guilt in their body language told me this wasn't a one-time thing. It has been hidden in plain sight. The rest of the night dragged. I barely touched my food. I needed to get out of there. So I faked a headache, told them I wasn't feeling too great and that I'd head out early. Gloria immediately offered to come with me, but I said no. Told her to enjoy the rest of the evening with her family. I watched her face carefully. She just said, "Okay, feel better." I said goodbye to everyone, even to the cousin. I shook his hand, pretending I hadn't just seen him kissing my wife. He looked me in the eye with no flicker of guilt. Driving home that night, I felt like my entire world had tilted off balance. My hands were on the wheel, my eyes on the road, but my mind wasn't really present. I kept replaying what I saw through that glass door. That kind of familiarity doesn't happen overnight. What really messed with my head was how I never saw it coming. I thought back to all the times Gloria talked about her cousin, how close they were, how he was just like a brother to her. She used to smile when she mentioned him, share stories of how he always had her back, and I never once questioned it. I trusted her completely. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have gone on believing that lie forever. When I got home that night, I didn't even feel angry. I felt hollow. The next day, Gloria came home looking tired, saying something about how late the night had run and how exhausting the dinner had been. She gave me a soft kiss on the cheek, asked if I slept well, and moved around the kitchen. I watched her from across the room, and all I could feel was distance. I didn't feel any love. That scared me more than anything. How quickly love could vanish the moment truth showed its face. And here's the part that truly messed with my head. The more I pulled away, the more she leaned in. Gloria started becoming more affectionate, touching me more, asking how my day was, trying to rekindle things we hadn't done in a while. I couldn't tell if it was guilt or habit or just her way of covering her tracks. But whatever it was, it only made me feel more distant. Her touch didn't feel like comfort anymore. It felt like betrayal dressed up as routine. I couldn't reconcile the woman I was looking at with the woman I saw that night. Watching her pretend nothing had happened created this strange noise in my head, like two truths crashing into each other, and I couldn't figure out which version to believe. The woman in front of me, smiling and pouring coffee, or the one I saw leaning into a kiss with her cousin. In that moment, I knew one thing. Whatever love I had for her, it had already packed its bags and left. I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I needed more than just a memory of what I saw. But inside, a quiet line had already been drawn. There was no going back from this. By the end of that week, I had a chance I didn't even have to look for. Gloria left her phone on the couch one morning when she stepped out to speak to our neighbor. That might seem like nothing, but it was unusual. She usually took that thing everywhere. I hesitated taking up this chance. But I knew if I walked away now, I'd spend the rest of my life stuck in the dark, full of questions with no answers. I picked it up and tried the passwords I'd seen her use in the past. On the third try, it unlocked. I went straight to her messages. I didn't have time to search the whole phone, so I focused on what mattered most. Her cousin's name was right there, near the top of the message list. I tapped it open. What I found wasn't just a one-off conversation. It was years' worth of messages, some deleted, some saved, and a thread that felt like it went on forever. Their affair started before I ever met her. They were close. Then, for a while, things seemed to pause. I guess that's when I came into the picture. But during that rough patch in our marriage, after the miscarriages, it started back up again. The messages were full of hidden meanings. Some weren't even coded. They were just straight-up confessions of wanting, of missing each other. She even called him the one that always made her feel seen. I kept reading. Voice notes were buried in the thread, too. I played a few, using headphones. I could hear things I had never heard her say to me. She told him she missed his touch, that being around me made her feel trapped, that no one else understand her the way he does. I felt like I was intruding on something I was never meant to hear. But at that moment, I didn't care. I needed the full truth. So I forwarded a few of those voice notes with my own phone for evidence and backed out of the messages. Then I locked her phone and put it back exactly where it was. That was the moment the confusion ended. There was no more maybe. No more hope that I was just reading too much into things. She had been emotionally and physically invested in someone else for years. She had slept next to me, cooked with me, kissed me, all while carrying on this secret life. That was when I knew I wasn't going to fight for this anymore. I wasn't going to pretend. Whatever we had was already dead. I just hadn't buried it yet. Once I had the evidence, I made arrangements to end the marriage. I waited till the divorce papers were ready before I confronted her. I just wanted to face the person who betrayed me and finally close the chapter. One evening, after dinner, I asked her to put the phone she was focused on down, said we needed to talk. She nodded. I looked her straight in the eyes and asked, "Are you having an affair with your cousin?" She blinked and said, "What? No. What kind of question is that?" I stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then I pulled out my phone and hit play. It was one of her voice notes she sent to him. She was saying things to him that no wife should ever say to another man, much less her cousin. Her face went pale. She didn't even ask where I got it from. She just covered her face and began sobbing. She said she was sorry, that it wasn't what I thought, that they had a complicated past. She felt lost, and he was just someone she confided in. Then she said something that honestly disgusted me. "Please, you can't tell anyone. If this gets out, it'll destroy me." That was all I needed to hear. I stood up, reached for the envelope on the table, and handed her the divorce papers. I told her calmly that this marriage was over, that I had nothing left to give. She cried harder, tried to grab my arm. I told her I was leaving the next day, not permanently, but until everything was settled. I didn't trust what she might do. After everything that happened and the divorce process began, it didn't take long before Gloria's family found out. Secrets like this don't stay hidden forever, especially when they tear apart a marriage that everyone believed was built on love. Her parents reached out to me separately. Her mom sent a long message saying she was disappointed, that she didn't raise her daughter to behave like this. She offered an apology for the pain I was put through. I could hear the shame underneath her father's words. To be honest, I didn't respond much. I kept my distance. Whether they were truly shocked or just pretending to be, well, that wasn't my concern anymore. The divorce process wasn't instant. It dragged on for months, with paperwork, meetings, signatures, and a few tense exchanges. But I didn't fight her. I just wanted to be free. Free from the lies. Free from the pretending. And finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the divorce was finalized. When it ended, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I had lost something, not just a partner, but a version of myself that believed in something deeply. I didn't trust easily, but I had trusted her fully, and that trust had been used as a shield for her secrets. Still, the pain wasn't the end of the story. I realized I had two choices, to stay broken or to rebuild. I chose the second, even though I didn't know what that would look like yet. I learned to be alone again, and more importantly, I learned to be okay with it. I let myself feel the hurt, but I also promised myself I wouldn't stay in that place forever. Gloria's betrayal taught me something I didn't expect. It showed me how deeply I could hurt and still stand. It revealed the quiet strength I had when everything else around me fell apart. And even though there are still nights where the memory sneaks in uninvited, I don't let it control me. The truth is, the marriage ended long before the divorce was signed. The only difference now is that I'm no longer pretending. I'm no longer playing along in someone else's lie. That chapter is closed.